This is Laricy Live, and I'm your host, Matt Laricy. We're giving you unfiltered access to the world of real estate, where we can cover the market trends, news, and honest answers to keep you ahead of the real estate game. Laricy Live is brought to you by Lincoln Title. Lincoln Title is the best and most efficient title company in Chicago and is the best place to close your property. This podcast is brought to you by Titan Builders. Titan Builders have been remodeling condos and homes in the Chicagoland area for over 35 years. Whether it's remodeling your kitchen or bathroom or getting your home ready for sale, Mike and Mark are your go-to guys. Laricy Live is brought to you by Guaranteed Rate and Ben Cohen. Ben Cohen is the #1 lender in Illinois and can close your loan in as fast as 8 days. Okay, we're back here. We're rolling. Today we're talking about what we're going to see with the buying pool post-spring break. So our last podcast was literally about like spring break, what's happening. But what I want to address is the whole buying pool and what I foresee happening. And let's call it the next 60 days. Today's April 1st, so when this comes out, I don't know. But I can tell you today's April Fool's Day, okay? And, buyers ain't fooling nobody, right? Buyers ain't fooling nobody. Some buyers are about to fool themselves, thinking that they're buyers, but they're really renters. And that's what we're seeing right now. Is we're seeing a lot of buyers having to flip, become renters. Now, I'm not hating anybody. I'm not hating on these renters. That a lot of these people they fought a good fight. They fought a good fight. They gave it their all, but they got to hang it up. They got to hang up their skates. Talked about this in one of my Monday updates. At a certain point, you got to make that decision. And, we're at the very middle of the peak. So December 31st, we're looking back. We're looking at that line graph. This is it. This is like the absolute height of the peak. This is the peakity peak, the peak. And with the peak comes a valley that will happen at some point. What goes up must come down. What goes down goes up, right? We talk about this all the time. Now, we're at that point where these buyers are saying to themselves, like, listen, I got to make a decision. I have a lease that ends in end of April, May, first part of June, or maybe even end of June. Most places say that you need a 60-day notice. So some of these guys are like, I got a month. They had an April lease. Like, they gave me an extra month till May. Got to find something next week. I got to let my guy know by like mid-April or end of April, and that's it. And I have to like either re-sign my lease or go find a rental. And this is a huge portion of my clientele right now. I'd say almost as much of a quarter of my clientele. And if that's a quarter of my clientele, that's probably 50 to 75% of the average agent's clientele, okay? Which means that we're going to see the market start to shift. And that's why we're at the peak, is because like if you have a lot of people, think about this. You got 100 buyers. Okay? And then all of a sudden, you got 75 buyers. Okay? And then if other people have 5 buyers, and then now they have 3 buyers, and then at the same time, you have 4 houses on the market, now you have 10 houses on the market. So you have less buyers and more houses hit the market. Guess what happens? Supply and demand. Supply and demand. Oldest rule in the world. Okay? So, but that's where we're at right now. And we're seeing that, these buyers have to make the decision, what do I do? Do I rent or buy? Here's what I'm telling my buyers. I'm like, listen, you got to rip the Band-Aid off, right? Because if you decide to rent again this year, okay, if you decide to become a renter, if you rent right now in April, okay, that means that your lease will be up when? Like, I don't know, next April? Okay. So then guess what happens? When are you going to start looking? Like probably January. I'm like, okay. When did you start looking this year? Like, well, January. I'm like, well, how did it go for you? I kept getting outbid. Okay. What do you think is going to happen next January? Well, I hope it's going to be a little bit less stressful, and there'll be less demand because maybe the rates will be lower. Okay, well, if the rates are lower, why would the demand be down? Okay. Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Okay. That means probably demand will be up. And then, like I told you previously, that like January and February are like the thinnest times of the year for inventory. So why would demand go down if there's no inventory in January, February next year? Like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. But they're like, hey, I got to get a house and I need a place to live. So I have to decide if I'm going to, be a buyer or a renter. So I'm just going to re-sign my lease. So they're just back in the cycle and then they do it again. There's so many buyers that I have that have gone through this that I've seen like 5 years in a row where they're on this like same exact cycle. It's just like an endless cycle of like, we start looking, they end up renting and then they're back into it again. And it's not like these guys are making good offers. They're making great offers. It's just the fact that they keep getting outbid because the market's so competitive. And then all of a sudden they reach out to me in July. So they signed a lease in April. They reach out to me in July. They're like, hey, Matt, that place that we bid on, and we bid $100,000 over ask price, that same place on the market now in July, and it hasn't moved in a couple of days. What do you think? What do you think's going on? I'm like, oh, don't you remember when I told you see if you could find short-term housing or do something different for a couple of months, and you get a better deal? It's that's where the market is now. It's we can't get out of our lease. Well, do you want to sublease? We don't want to deal with that. Okay. Do you think something like this will be up in January? Sure, for $100,000 more. So this is my point. Is just that you kind of keep getting back in this cycle, and a lot of these buyers they're just consistently going on this, and that's where we're at right this second in the marketplace. Is that we got a lot of buyers that are in this. Buyers have been consumed, right? They've absolutely given their lives up the past 4 months plus on buying. They're like, hey, want to buy a new couch? Can't. I got to buy something, so a condo, so I don't want to ruin my credit. I don't want a big purchase on my. My car broke and I got a new car. Can't do that because I got to make sure that there's not a big credit pull on my credit before I go buy a house. Can't go on a vacation because if you go away that weekend, there might be a property that comes up that week that's only showing on the weekend, and you don't want to miss out on buying that place. So you're not going to go on your vacation. You can't. You pretty much can't do anything, and that's what these buyers have been doing. That they've been absolutely consumed. They've been obsessed. Every they go out to dinner, they're talking to their friends, they're talking about all the places they saw, what the buying process has been like, all the places they've been outbid on. It's they've been just kind of beaten down by this. And, I'm not saying that I don't feel bad for these buyers. I mean, heck, this morning I had a buyer that offered, I think they offered $140,000 over ask price, waived everything. And the agent was we were third in line. It's cops don't even matter. And then you got to decide if you want to buy or rent. You're like, what, honestly, it's just stupid. It's the problem is, and let me tell you there's something that every buyer out there, it's the problem is that you and everybody else are on the same cycle. You and everybody else are on the same cycle. So if you're a buyer out there thinking well, should I just re-sign my lease for a year? Okay, re-sign your lease for a year, but then plan to sublet that in June, July, and August, okay? And, so you're going to only live there for a couple months and then you move again. You'd be like, well, Matt, what if I can't find a subleaser for my place? Okay, let's do an exercise. Here's how you sublease your place. Okay, let's say you sign a lease at $4,000 a month. Okay, and let's say because you're like, well, Matt, I don't know if I'll be able to find somebody $4,000 a month. Okay, well, can you find somebody for $1? Well, they're like, of course I can find somebody for $1. Okay, so what's the number between $1 and $4,000 rented out? Let's say you got to rent it out for $3,000 a month. Okay, so you take $1,000 hit. Okay, so let's do this exercise. You can only rent it out for $3,000. You have it for $4,000, which means you have to cover that $1,000 difference. You've lived there for 4 months, which means you have to cover 8 months of the extra $1,000. So that's $8,000. Okay, so now you covered $8,000 of your sublease. At the same time, a house that went for $1,050,000 in February, you can now get for $1 million. So now you can get it for $50,000 cheaper. Okay, now you have to give $8,000 for your rent. So you take the $8,000 off your $50,000. So that's $42,000. So it's $42,000 more or less than what you have to pay. Now, you saved $42,000 if you did the math correctly and follow along with me here, which means that it's better to just do it that way. But most people don't think like that. They just think, I don't know, I can't get on my lease. I want to sublease it. So then I just want to, re-rent it. It's okay, well, let me tell you something. If you could find something for cheaper in the summertime, which is 100% true, because that's how it always is in the summer. And then every broker I run into in the summer is like, hey, because if I do end up getting to a place early, which is rare, but if I do, and I'm there with the agents, like, hey, come here. And they always getting close as if like there's nobody around. And they're always like, come here. I'm like looking around. We're the only two sitting out front. I'm like, okay, what's up, dude? They're like, are you slower now? I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, you slow? I'm like, well, I mean, it's the summer. Market's always slow in the summer. Like, man, something happened. You think it's the economy? Like, no, it's every summer the same thing happens. This is just what happens in the summer market. And then people freak out. We're 60 days away from that. 60 days. This is the peak. It's hard for people to understand that markets change really quickly. People tell me I'm crazy, I'm wrong, it won't change really quickly. Okay, you guys remember end of December what the market was like compared to today? From the end of December compared to end of January it was like you went to a different planet, okay? And we're about 60 days away from that feeling of where things go from 1,000 miles per hour to 100 miles per hour. I'm not saying some markets will be bad by any means, but it's not going to be, everything's going to be $150,000 over ask price. So when you're on that cusp of do I re-sign my lease or not, it's like, okay, well, one option is you sign your lease and then you find a renter. Second option, you find short-term housing, okay? So somebody out there is going to be like, man, it's really expensive for short-term housing. Okay, well, how expensive is it? It's an extra $2,500 a month. Okay, well, let's play the math game, right? Something that you want to buy is $750,000 today, and you could get it for $700,000 in August. So that's a $50,000 difference. Let's say you have to spend, an extra $2,500 a month for the next 3 months. So that means that you have to spend $7,500, right? $2,500 plus $2,500 is $5,000. $5,000 plus $2,500 is $7,500, right? So you get $7,500 actually you have to spend. Now that place is $50,000 cheap, more expensive today, but you get it for $50,000 cheaper. So if you could save $50,000, but you got to spend $7,500, that's still going to mean that you're $42,500 better than you would have been if you didn't short-term rent it. So again, I always tell people this comes down to a math problem. But a lot of people who are on the cycle, which is a lot of buyers on this cycle, they can't get off it because they don't understand that, like, at the end of the day, it's just a math problem. And I know it's easy for me to say it. I'm a real estate agent. We're scumbags. We're salesmen. We're just here to, get paid. We just know it. All we do is open doors. I get that comment all the time. Like, you guys are door openers. It's like, I don't know. First off, I don't even open that many doors because they're already open, but that's all it costs. It's like, hey, this door opener in a suit and tie, he's going to tell me about math. It's like, no, it's a simple equation. Okay. My point is that, like, people only look at, like, the small stuff. It's like the same thing I tell sellers. When sellers got a big ego about something and they're like, well, I'm not going to take $5,000 less. It's like, okay, dude, well, we have nothing else on the table. Your mortgage is $10,000 a month. And, like, I have no prospects. So if this sits for another month, you're going to lose $10,000. You don't want to give them $5,000. So that means that you're still going to be $5,000 ahead if I don't sell it this month. Like, so who's really winning here? Like, yeah, I know you got a big ego, but would you rather lose an extra $5,000? So again, it's the same conversation for the buyers right now. It's like, how much more money are you going to save by waiting? Now, I also get it as just a door opener and a suit and tie that, like, moving sucks and that you got to factor in the cost of move. Okay, we'll throw an extra $5,000 in the cost of move or putting yourself in storage. If I throw, $5,000 on top of the $7,500, it still puts me at like $12,000. Okay, which still means $12,500, which still means compared to my $50,000 that I'm still cheaper. Okay, so again, this is what you have to lay out, and this is why demand drops so much. You got to break the cycle, and the people who do break the cycles, we do have a lot of clients that they're like, listen, I totally see your point of view. Let's do it. And then they always call me up and they're like, dude, that was such a better move. And the ones that don't, they call me in December. We start looking in January. Like, dude, I thought this would be slower. And then those are the ones. So, like, every buyer out there that's like, who's the ones that are going crazy? Who are these ones that are spending $150,000 over asking, waiving everything? Oh, these are the people who've done this 2 years in a row now. They're just done with it. They've done this 2 years. They did it last year, didn't like it. Did the year after that, didn't get it. Now they're in their third year of buying, and they're just like, listen, like, at a certain point, like, let me just blow everybody away. And that, they could have just done this in August and not even have to, like, come close to, instead of going $150,000 over, they could have went like $20,000 over. Like, dude, this is the difference we're talking about. If you don't believe me, go look at comps for duplex downs. So anybody out there that says, oh, this door opener in a suit and tie is an idiot, do me a favor. Let's just look at the stats. Look at duplex downs, October, November, December. Look at what they trade for. Look at how many people go over ask price on a duplex down in, let's say, Lincoln Park or Lakeview or Roscoe Village, okay, in the fourth quarter, okay? There's very few you'll see that went over ask price. Now let's play that same exercise. Look at closings in March, April, and May for duplex downs in those neighborhoods and look at how many went under ask price. You probably won't find any, okay? So again, it's just, I've said this last podcast. I said the one before it. I'll say it again. Real estate's a stock, trades at different rates at different times of the year. So in order to get out of that, if you're a buyer that has to make that decision, you got to break that cycle. Do buyers who rent often regret it? The answer is yes, every time. I would tell you that it's very rare I don't have a buyer who's like a real buyer, not like a buyer who's like stuck there, because there's also a lot of buyers right now that are looking, when we say like we lose a quarter of our buyers, like there's a good portion of that quarter that we're just like, dip my toe in the water, wasn't really planning on buying anything, but just thought about it would maybe be like a good decision. So those type of people, they don't regret it because they weren't really going to buy anyways. But it's very rare that I have a buyer that was like, took this seriously, went out and looked, and then they're not sending me places in like August, September, like, hey, like, this is exactly what we want. We say the same thing. This is exactly what we want. If this comes up in January, February, please keep us posted because we will buy it. And again, like I just said earlier, it will come up then for more money. It's like, what do you think? You don't think it'll go for the same price? I'm like, no, because it's like, but why is it sitting in August, September? Well, why do you think? They're like, I don't understand. I'm like, well, what are you doing right now? Well, we're renting. Well, what do you think all your competitors are doing? We're renting. They're like, so you really think it'll be that much different in January? I'm like, how was it in January when you were looking? They're like, it was crazy. I'm like, okay. It's the same thing, guys. I got D's in college. I'm a door opener and a suit and tie. I got D's in college. I'm about as dumb as it gets, right? I'm a fat, ugly slob, right? Just an idiot, okay? And a loser, all the comments are there. But like at the end of the day, all I can tell you is as a guy that sells either the most or, top 3, let's call it, every year for God knows how long, it's like, how do I do this as a D student that's an ugly fat loser, that's a door opener in a suit and tie? How do I always predict this stuff? It's like, well, let me tell you something. The same shit happens every year, every year. It's like clockwork. It's literally like clockwork. It's for like all my doctor patients, a lot of my or doctor clients, a lot of my doctors and lawyers. I think my doctors and lawyers always put us down the most because they're like, listen, they're super educated people. I could never do what they do. We already talked about the D student. I'm not smart enough. So I do think like sometimes we get the passive aggressive, like, oh, you're just a realtor. Like I get that comment a lot. And it's like, okay, well, like if you see the same patient, so I tell my doctors, you see the same patient, 10 patients walk in. They all have the same exact condition, right? They give you symptoms. You're like, it's this. You give them the thing, it solves it. 11th guy walks in with the same exact symptoms. You can be like, yeah, I just saw 10 people. This is going around. This is what it is. Okay? You're a lawyer. You got a case. Same case comes in 3 different times. 4th guy comes in with the same case. Like, I know how to win this case, right? It's the same thing. Well, for me, in real estate, compared to that, it's the same thing over and over again. I see the same thing happens every year at the same time of the year, every year. And then like there's stuff leading up to it that changes it. So people always tell me, why does the market shift? Why do you call it the summer shift? What happens? Right now in April, okay, April 1st, I'm doing a podcast to tell you that, hey, when I tell you when the market shifts June 1st and you say, how did it happen? I can be like, go back and watch the podcast that I did April 1st, where I talk about how we lose a quarter of the demand because people have to decide to buy or rent. And on June 1st, you lose that other quarter. So that's the other, and that's where we get 50% from. So a quarter of the demand is going to leave the market in the next 2 weeks. And then another quarter of demand is going to leave the market June 1st. And that's going to be, so 25 plus 25 is 50. Okay, D student here. I can do the math. So 25 plus 25 equals 50. So 50% of the demand will be gone June 1st. Now somebody's going to be like, well, Matt, there's going to be new buyers coming into the marketplace. Of course there's going to be new buyers coming into the marketplace. But guess what? At the same time, there's going to be more sellers coming into the marketplace like we talked about last podcast. So if you got more sellers coming in and you got less buyers coming in that are leaving, then guess what? Supply goes up, demand goes down, and prices go down. There we go. Supply and demand. So it happens constantly. Just like seeing a patient. See the same symptoms. This is going to happen. So when you guys ask me, how did you predict this? D student, idiot, door opener, same shit happens. And I'm already seeing it. Do you know how I'm already seeing it? I can't tell you how many buyers I've had, a quarter of them, that have said, hey, Matt, can you put us in touch with a rental agent? Or, hey, we re-signed our lease. Or, hey, we decided to take a pause. Or, hey, contact us next year, blah, blah, blah. The other shitty thing for us, it's like, here's like, and people are like, boo-hoo. It's like also like, well, think about this. Like, we spend like 4 months with people, answering calls late at night, showing you places, dropping everything on a drop of a dime to do whatever we can for you to see these places, and then nothing comes of it. We get nothing for that. Like, it's free. That was free. Like, I could have sat on my ass, eating potato chips on the couch, watching Netflix, and gotten paid exactly as much as running around like a madman, missing out on life. So when people talk about us just being these dumb guys in suits and ties that are door openers, it's like, okay, well, dude, how about this? Like, how many of your kids' birthday parties have you missed? How many of this, dinners have you missed with your family because you had to do this stuff? And people are like, well, boo-hoo, you get paid a lot. It's like, okay, well, you get paid. Yeah, we get paid when we close. You don't close, you don't get paid. There's a lot of times where you don't get paid at all and you do a ton of work. So for us, it's also super frustrating right now that like, hey, you lose a core demand where you did a bunch of work, and you don't get it, and you don't get paid at all. And it's like, and you don't have anything to show for it, right? And I'm not saying like cry me a river. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like at the end of the day, don't disrespect us either. It's like, I'm doing everything I can to be the best I can, but also it's like, some people just want a property more than your client does. And no matter how much you advise them, like again, this morning, like last night I had a client that was like, what should we do? Should we go there? And it's like, I also have a conscience. It's like at the end of the day, it's like, listen, you could go there, but it makes no sense. It's just like, it's so stupid to go there. It makes like literally no sense. And I'm not here to put my cape on and try to talk me out of it. They're like, if you want my honest opinion on it, I wouldn't do it. But if you love it, so I always tell people, if you want my honest opinion, would I do it? No, but it's your money. If you want to, blow this thing out of the water and take it, and you want to like live there for the rest of your life, then do it. I'm not living there. It's not my money. But I also say that so like I don't get sued later. Somebody's like, this agent pushed me. I'm not pushing anything. You asked my opinion, I gave it to you. It's your decision. But ultimately, if you don't end up buying a place and you end up renting, and I spent, every weekend with you for the last 5 months and I got zero, it's also like, well, I think we're a little bit better than just being called door openers, So like, it's kind of a frustrating thing at our point. I always compare it to like when I get some clients every now and then in the car, they're like, well, I feel like we could do your job and it's so easy and blah, blah. I'm like, okay, well, just out of curiosity, where are you going this weekend? They're like, oh, we're going on vacation. Because everybody's always on vacation, especially around my age. They're always traveling, enjoying life. I'm like, I can't take a vacation. Like, well, why not? I'm like, well, because I got to be with you. They're like, well, don't you have somebody to cover? I'm like, yeah, I could cover it. But like, if I go away more than a couple times, guess what? There's 42,000 agents in Chicago. Just go find somebody else to do it. And then you'll forget about me. I'm like, look, and they're like, oh, that wouldn't happen. It's like, okay, we'll see. And then this is what always happens. Like somebody calls me at 11 o'clock at night. I don't pick up. And then like I call them back at like 6 or 7 in the morning. Like, hey, we really wanted to talk to you at 11 o'clock. Like kind of disappointed we couldn't go hold you. She's like, oh, did you tell me like I should take a vacation and have somebody cover for me? But like, God forbid I didn't answer. So like my point is like, people always tell you like, and somebody out there's like, well, Matt, you need to have balance and you got to have your life. It's like, okay, everybody tells me I need to do something with my life until they need something from me. And then when they need something from me, they'll be like, oh, I know this. Another example, I had on my birthday, it was 8 o'clock at night. I just got home, 8 o'clock at night on my birthday. Worked the whole day. I had 2 different clients come and say, hey, saw it's your birthday. Happy birthday. You really need to take some time off with your family. Like, I know you work a lot, but like, you got to find balance, man. Anyways, I was hoping I could catch a quick hour of your time right now to kind of talk about something that we're thinking about doing like 8 months from now. It's like, okay, well, like you just told me I need to find some time with. So it's like, again, it's always convenient to say it until you need something. And I'm not being a jerk, but I don't care. Like, listen, I'm here for I give my life up to work. And that was my decision. And that is my decision. But the other thing of this is just kind of going on the tangent of saying like, listen, like when we lose a lot of people during this time of year, it's also kind of, it's annoying on our front. So my point is I know I'm going to get a lot of feedback on saying like we're trying to push or telling somebody like, this is in your best interest to try to get these guys to keep buying. It's like, yeah, of course it's a little bit in our best interest, but like whose best interest is it really in? A property that goes for $1,050,000 in March and the same property goes for $1 million in July. Like who's winning there? Because technically if it's $50,000 cheaper, I'd be making less money and you're paying less money. So isn't that a win-win for both people? Right. So it's like, all I'm trying to do is educate you guys on where the market's going. And those are things that you have to factor in when you're on that cusp of buying or selling. What about for sellers? Why is it so important to list before April? This is why right here. For all my sellers, like, well, I got to wait for that weather to break. It's like, okay, we'll wait for the weather break, but come April 1st, we lose a quarter of the demand. What do you mean we lose a quarter of the demand? Because they decided to buy or rent by then. Like, you got a quarter less people. Guess what? You don't have as many people buying. Now, listen, 3 beds and single-family homes are still batshit crazy. I got a lot of 2-bedrooms that are like crazy, but they're not like we're getting like 10 offers on our 2-bedrooms, but like in February I was getting like 20 offers, right? So that's a difference. Like, and people are a little bit more hesitant. Why are people more hesitant, right? My seller's like, why are they more hesitant? Here's why. Let me give you an example. Something comes on the market, 2-bed, 2-bath, February 1st, $500,000. You're the only one on the market. Nobody's seen one of these. You've been an elusive unicorn. Nobody's seen one of these in 6-8 weeks. So you come on. People are saying, what if this is the only one to come on the market? What if this is it? Push the cards in. Let's go. Get the chips in there. Let's go. Let's buy. Let's go all in on it. Okay? That's how buyers feel February 1st. April 1st, they see a 2-bedroom going on for $500,000. Like, hey, that one's awesome. I want to see it. I also saw 6 other 2-bedrooms come on, so I want to see all of those at once. And then, like, maybe we'll offer on 2 at the same time, see which one happens. But, like, we don't need to get crazy. That's the difference. Gretchen right now is about to have a panic attack because Gretchen sets up all of our buyer tours. She's just like, this is nonstop. There's so many places people want to see. I'm like, why is that? She goes, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think's going on? I'm like, Gretchen, relax. there's more properties that hit the marketplace. So obviously, if more places hit the marketplace, we're going to see, less offers come in. So when people ask me, do multiple bids start to die down as you get to summer? Yes. And when people ask, well, when does that really happen? When do you really notice multiple bids slow down? April 1st, right now, is when things start to change. Jess just walked in. Sorry. I got my, if you're paid, you're fine. I'm paid. Okay, good. You can park on that side of the street, right? This is what happens in here. We have to even stop mid-podcast because we got do you think, Jess, our whole life revolves around tickets? Yeah. Well, what's he buy my car for? I'm paid up. They just like checking me out.
They know where you're at.
I'm like the last one left at 4 a.m. at the bar, and they're just looking at me. They do. They're like, "What's up?" I'm pretty. Yeah, I'm paid up. Is he writing me? Man, I gotta tell you guys, when somebody comes in and says "ticket guy," this is what I think it's like PTSD when we say it. Somebody's like "ticket guy." It's like what? Yeah. It's just we get so many of these things. It's just aggravating. I don't even know what we were even talking about. Tickets.
No. Gretchen panic attack.
Gretchen was having a panic attack. Jess just walks in, and she's having a panic attack because we have so many listings. And it's like, well, I was like, okay, Jess. Well, first off, this is the busy. How many panic attacks were you having in October, Jess? Huh?
In October?
Yeah, in October. How many?
Not many.
You got to talk up.
Not many.
Not many. Well, because there's not as many listings coming on. So April's our peak for listings. Okay. So guess what? If we're peak and we got the most listings in the city, guess what? That means everybody else is going to be peaking with listings. As I said earlier, more listings come on the marketplace. So you get more listings coming on the marketplace in April, and you lose a quarter of the demand. Market starts to slowly shift. Now somebody's like, well, Matt, the market's still crazy. Of course the market's so crazy right now. Of course it is. When you're in the eye of the hurricane, you don't realize how bad the hurricane is. Then the hurricane's over with. You're like, oh, that was a crazy hurricane, right? It's like, yeah. And then all of a sudden June hits and everybody looks back. It's like, wow, that was a crazy season. But all of a sudden the market shift. How is that? April 1st. April 1st. Watch this date. Mark on the calendars. We are going to make a clip of this and play this July 1st and be like, see, told you so. Told you so. Clip this. Clip. Just so we got it. Clip. Just so we have it here. And I can rub it in your face. Be like, I told you so. This is what I tell people all the time. They're like, well, how do you know where the market's going? I'm like, go back and watch my podcast. I literally talk about where the market's going to go. And then it happens. Like, well, how'd you predict it? I'm not a smart guy. We already talked about it. I'm a D student. I'm fat, ugly, overweight. What else do people call me, Jess? Loser. Man, they're like sharks out there. Yeah. But we use these to show people that, like, hey, when you want to hire somebody, hire an expert, because an expert really knows where the market's going. And, like, you just have to know is that, like, if you're thinking about, you're one of those people right now, like, what do I do? Should I try to find temporary housing or extend my lease? I'm telling you right now that if you're sick of getting outbid, and you're sick of not seeing enough inventory, in the next 60 days, the market will completely shift. And if you're a seller out there and it's like, hey, Matt, I want to take advantage of the marketplace, like, this is it. Get that bad boy on the marketplace. Get it up. My last thing is, where do I think the market's going to go from here? We're in the peak. So if you're at the very top, what do they call it? A summit? When you get to the top? Summit? Yeah. If I was a mountain climber there, I'll tell you right now, if you gave me $100 million cash to go on even like the smallest mountain up with like every safety protocol, pretty much guarantee I would never die, I still wouldn't do it. But for all you adventure seekers out there, if you're at the peak, if you're at the summit, if you're at the top, you can only go down from there. So when I talk about where do I think the market is, I think April 1st is like, from now to the 15th is like the absolute, you're at the top of Everest. Enjoy it. Hang out up there. Get your selfies up. Do people do selfies or too windy up there? I don't know. Stick? Now I got the steel selfie sticks. Get your picture because this is it. Stay tuned for our next podcast. We're going to be talking about some interesting things with mortgages. Thanks for listening to Laricy Live.